We're enjoying this change of pace here, weather-wise. You know, every aspect of our seasons is beneficial, just a matter of perspective. You know, when you grow food year-round, you try to anticipate things so that you can more or less be ahead of the curve as you germinate different seeds and prepare to change with the seasons. You're not always in good stead with Mother Nature, but in this instance, we happen to have numerous college students who visit our facility, and we engage them in various activities. The last few activities they did was transplanting, and they had a ball. And I'll go into that in a little bit, but the essence of the reason I'm here in our discussion with you is benefiting communities through urban agriculture education. So when you think urban, if you're in and around Nashville, you think wall-to-wall buildings and cranes everywhere. But the fact remains that in urban agriculture, you're typically not dealing with acreage. You're dealing with lots. And in many instances, in lower investment communities, those lots at one time were houses. So one of the first perspectives that you look at could be from an appraisal perspective. How did this become a low investment community? Well, when you see a vacant lot, that represents a risk because there was once a house there and it's no longer there. Something went wrong. Money was lost. So this, in and of itself, can bring the value of properties in that surrounding area down, stagnating growth, which we all recognize real estate as being one of the primary assets in our investment portfolio, if not the number one. So how do you negate or stabilize this situation? Well, I've been told that a fruit tree at its maturation, when it's producing fruit regularly, is worth at least $2,500. So if you put 10 fruit trees on a vacant lot and they reach maturity, that lot, in theory, is worth about $2,500 or $25,000, excuse me. So right there, you've caused a stabilizing effect on property values, as opposed to that vacant lot as an appraiser. When I come there, I'm seeing risk. Now I see fruit trees, I see promise, because I got to reevaluate my composite appraisal report to consider that as an income producing property now, rather than a drain on the neighborhood. And that's just that aspect of it on a macro level. On a micro level, you've got the benefit of sustenance. Now, let's say that we're talking about food deserts. There go that word. Because along with food deserts, you've got this other phrase which they call at risk. And typically it pertains to youth. But anybody can be at risk. How so? Go with me for a moment, in your mind, on a camping trip, okay? We've reached our destination, we get out of our vehicles, we put our backpacks on, and we're traveling down this trail. And we're surrounded by trees, and we're enjoying it. All the birds and the animals, we're just enjoying it. We got our binoculars out, and we're taking pictures of all these beautiful animals, and it starts to get dark. And by being so immersed in our activities, we've kind of forgotten our direction. So we take our backpack off and reach in there and get our compass out. The compass is broken. We're at risk. Because we don't know where we're going. We don't have no direction. This is what occurs with many young people in low investment communities. They're at risk because they've not been given any direction for their future. They know they got to go somewhere. They're growing. They're going to be finished with their basic education in a short period of time, those between the ages of 13 and 18. Will they go to college? Will they get a trade? Have they obtained any skills up to this point? If the answer is no, can you see how anger can set in? This is what puts them in that position. And in addressing the benefits of education regarding urban agriculture, you must consider the youth. Not just the fact that the farmer's aging out. What's the average age of a farmer? 55, 59 years old? Look at here, I'm past that. But I can still think back, 15 years old, 25 years old. Guys, what couldn't we do at 15? They couldn't tell us we could do anything we wanted to. That was our mindset. Now, I've come to realize reality sets in and there's some limitations, you know? Some more, it's tying your shoes, you gotta put those slippers on instead. Yeah? But the fact remains, you must consider the youth as the first aspect, because they're the ones who will benefit. Number one, from an activity perspective, positive engagement, putting them in an environment where they not only can relate to each other, but they can develop some skill sets that they can utilize for the rest of their lives. Not to mention the nutritional aspect of it. There were a couple of psychologists by the name of Lufkin and Pipkin out of Oakland, California, who did a study on at-risk youth. And what they did was they put good nutritional inputs into their lives over an extended period of time. And you know what they discovered? Their academic achievement level went up 10 to 30%. So what are we talking about here? Less repeated grades, less dropouts, and the potential for higher wage earning for these future adults. I mean, nothing against Starburst, but compare it to the nutritional value of an apple or an orange. There's no contest. It's just an acclamation. If you don't have access to something, you take what you can get. It's just like that compass. If you don't have access to a good compass, you're lost. You're floating around trying to find your way without any guidance. So, how do you engage youth? One of the things that I discovered is many youth are confronted with peer pressure. These type shoes, these type pants, this type jacket, this type hairstyle, all relevant. They were relevant when we were that age. Let's not forget that. We were once them. And some of them, their family cannot afford these niceties that their buddies have. So sometimes they go out and try to get five-finger discounts and wind up incarcerated or involved in the criminal justice system. So it would behoove us to take it upon ourselves in providing education in urban agriculture to bring a few dollars to put on the table as a stipend for these young people as they go about learning urban agriculture. Because number one, it incentivizes their activities and it gives them direction. Because we all, at one point or another, will have to learn how to balance a checkbook. Yeah, I still have problems with it because sometimes them bills become Williams. It can get real personal. But it gives them that foundation, which we all have to have on working with money. And when they're able to obtain the things that they like to have without disturbing their parents or guardians who may be struggling, it causes them to have a certain sense of self-reliance, which they're going to have to do perform at some point in the near future, because they're reaching adulthood, where self-reliance becomes all the utmost importance, and the decisions you make can have a dramatic effect on you for the rest of your life. So we can bring a few dollars to the table, recognizing that this stipend would not just be a form of income, but it incentivizes their ability to listen. Sometimes when you talk to them, you really want to tell them, first, before I talk, take your left hand, put it over your left ear, I'm going to talk in the right ear. But when you can say to them, I'll tell you a good instance. We've got young people, we've had young people since 2011. In this instance, this past summer, I come out the back and we got tunnels that the RCS helped us build. They were on the back side of one, and I heard a cuss word. So I go over there and I say, hey, words cost $1 a piece. Guess what happened? I stopped hearing cuss words. Yeah, it's just like this fella who had this Monopoly game that his children were playing. And they were not playing by the rules. They were just as free-hearted with this thing as it could be, you know, making all kind of crazy deals. And he thought about it. He went to the bank and got real money and replaced the Monopoly money with real money. Don't you know each one of them got serious? They were playing by the rules and they were deeply involved because now the stakes have changed. Dollar dissection is a very serious thing. Think about it. Have you ever been penalized or got a traffic violation and had to go to court and spend money? Not only did you lose money from the time you spent there, when you left, they took more of it. It sticks with you because you either get you a radar or you see that speed limit and you stay within it. You know, look around quite a bit before you make that U-turn. Dollar dissection has its place. And it stays with us over a period of time. So that's one of the things that they develop when you incentivize them with a financial interest. So when you look at these same urban areas where there was once a house, you have to take under consideration that many of these houses were built prior to 1976 when lead was still in the paint. And when they got torn down, some of that lead more likely got in that dirt. So you got to do a soil test. Regardless of what you want to grow, you need to do a soil test so you can recognize whether you might need any amendments to have a decent crop, something that you feel comfortable eating or inviting someone else to eat. And once you've done your soil test, you see what type of amendments you need. Now, let's reckon with dollar cost averaging, because it takes money to farm at any level. But some of the amendments that you can utilize might be right around the corner. In one instance, one soil test we did, the nitrogen count was low. And we wanted to plant tomatoes. We know they love nitrogen. So down the street by the park, there was this row of pine trees. I got the youngsters and some shovels and rakes and some 40-gallon garbage bags, and we swept up pine needles and put them all in the walkways, and I had them march up and down the walkways to grind them up to allow the pine needles to leach into the soil. Next soil test, we had zeros. Nitrogen level up. It cost us time. And it was a natural methodology that we were capable of utilizing that you can use over and over and over anywhere you go. Nitrogen. You ever seen grass grow around pine trees? No, because the nitrogen level in those pine needles is so high it burns the grass up. Natural amendment. We did a research project that ended this past August, and it was a cherry tomato research project that we did in conjunction with Dr. Michael Best, who's a professor of agricultural economics at Tennessee Tech University. And our objective was to increase the per plant yield in the state of Tennessee for cherry tomatoes, which had been 12.5 pounds per plant. Well, suffice to say, in the second year, we did a little over 15 pounds per plant. In the third year, this final year, we did over 18 pounds per plant. First year was experimentation. By the second year, we discovered that basil and marigolds ward off white flies, aphids, and in general, keeps your plants healthy. Because these bugs, and that's the other side of it, these bugs don't like the smell of these things. In which, one of the things that we adhere to is no one has cornered the market on good ideas. And sometimes you have a specialty, and it's just like driving with the double lines. You stay in your lane. And when something's needed outside of your specialty, you call on someone else to bring that to the table. Because out of this research project, and we discovered that basil and marigolds help ward off those pests, I don't know the reason why. So last week, we went to a professor of horticulture and asked him if he would delve into the reasons why it worked. I don't know if it's flavonoids or whatever the scientific aspects are, because that's not my lane. I'm just an inquisitive guy who will try stuff and listen to what other people have to say and try what they may want to do. So if it doesn't work, let's figure out why it didn't work and try something else. But when you've done your soil testing and you determine that you can grow food, you got a decision to make. Am I going to get out the mechanized equipment, or am I going to do it by hard labor? Now, I say hard labor, but if you're 15 or 16 years old, you're just having fun. Again, another good reason to have the youth involved. You know, the job can get done today, whereas if it's me, I'd have to work backwards, because if I started looking down there to the end, I might not make it. Yeah, but we determined that we would utilize a no-till methodology for several reasons. Number one, there was a movie called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Anybody ever see that movie? Well, it was fantasized, but the fact is, there's a microbial life that exists in the first 4 to 6 inches of the ground that was there before we got there. And they help maintain soil quality. If you go out in the jungle, you go out in the forest, nobody's out there, but stuff's growing. It's a natural process. Why reinvent the wheel? Just follow the leader. It's already been taken care of. So with the no-till methodology, we ease our way into the soil. There's a fellow named John Jeeves who works with an organization called Bountiful Gardens out of California. He's written several publications. And in one of them that I read, there's this thing called double dig. Double dig is a very good process. It's laborious, but you take a shovel, a wheelbarrow, pitchfork, and 5-gallon bucket, and maybe a piece of wood that's 3 feet wide by 2 feet wide. I say that because we like to do beds instead of rows, and we can get a lot greater productivity, we found, out of beds than we can rows. And you take a 2-foot section at a time. You go down about 4 to 6 inches, you get all the roots out, put them in the box and discard them, or put them in the compost. You create a compost pile for them. And the first section of dirt, you put in 5-gallon buckets. And as you proceed forward, you're going to take the next section and put it in the first section. But after you get through the first 4 to 6 inches, you take your pitchforks, you go down another 8 to 10 inches and loosen the soil. The soil will go from flat like this to round like that. And if you ever lifted weights, it's easier to lift 10 pounds than it is 100. And if you're a seed and you're putting roots in the soil, and you're putting roots in a nice, soft soil, you're going to grow a lot better than you can if you were dealing with compacted soil and had to work real hard to get your roots established. So that soil quality is not only enhanced by amendments, it's enhanced by that ease of effort for the plants to grow. So you loosen the soil up and make sure when you're digging that you find worms. If you don't see any worms, you got a problem. Because they're part of that microbial life, that their casings help to increase the soil quality. So as far as educating people in urban agriculture, these are some of the basic things that you want to tackle in order to get anything accomplished. And along the way, you find out what's culturally appropriate. Because different people, different cultures have different priorities. If I'm in a Hispanic neighborhood, I want to grow cilantro, tomatillos, jalapenos. You see what I'm getting at? Based on your environment, you want to coincide with it, not fight against it. And if anyone's interested, I brought a few copies of our cherry tomato research project and brochures, and I only brought a few, but Miss Debbie Ball at the Tennessee Department of Agriculture has about 500 or 600 copies, and she welcomes you to come by there and get them if you like. Thank you, guys.
I just wanted to ask if you've seen any, you started in 2011?
Yeah.
If you've seen any sort of long-term success with the youth that you've been on?
It was beautiful. First, we started with children from juvenile court, and they said we had had over 300 of them come through and none have reciprocated. Several of them graduated college. We have some at Tennessee State University, Lee College, and Lane College now. And others who are aspiring to go to college. And we've had parents to come and thank us because their children were able to get their school supplies and the things that they wanted to have with no problem.
What kind of hurdles do you face? Are there permits you need to get or authorizations you need to have to convert these urban lots into farms?
One of the first things you want to do is look at building code. The easiest one to work with is CMU, commercial mixed use. You can just buy anything except put up a pre-steel refinery. You look at the zoning and when you got that broad, commercial mixed use is a broad zone. You don't have to worry about permits and all that other stuff. And another step that you take, you can get a building on the facility and get manufacturing license. Get your facility approved as a manufacturing facility, and that cuts out any other rigmarole, any value added things that you want to do with your growth. Yes, sir.
What style of hoop house do you have? Gable style?
We use the round. One thing, there's a couple of things that we have as prerequisites on our site. One, you gotta have fun. Two, we like simplicity. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. See what I'm talking about, my good leader? Encouraging words. We were all encouraged that day we left, so thank you very much. I'm sure you'll hang around just a little bit if anybody else has any questions. Sure. All right, Mr. Persinger is gonna wrap us up. So.
Just a